Hello, and thank you for joining me for today's lesson. Today we will be discussing how to be an ally for LGBTQ plus students. So today I will be mainly focusing on transgender students, but I will also be including students that also fit in under that spectrum. First, we will be discussing a scenario. So consider the following. Let's say that it is halfway through the semester and there is a student who comes up to your desk after class one day and asks if they can start going by a different name and pronouns. How would you, the teacher, go about integrating this new information into your classroom without putting the spotlight on the student? I'm going to give you a minute to just sit and think about your answer. Everyone's answer will be different. It just depends on experiences you've had, your own personal opinions. And if you need more than this 1 minute, you can go ahead and pause the video. But your 1 minute starts now. Alright, your 1 minute is up, and we will be moving on to the possible solution. So, one possible way to go about this situation is to just start calling the student by the preferred name and pronouns in class. And then, if you start doing this regularly, the other students in the class should catch on and start doing this as well. I've had an experience with this just this past year. I was in a class with a teacher who has known me for about 3 years, and he's known me by just one name and pronoun, and I asked him if I could go by different ones, and he immediately agreed. He just started calling me that. He didn't introduce me to the class and just call me out, which was great. I was able to just sit back and not have to worry about it, and after a while, the other students started to catch on, and they started calling me that as well. So now we will be moving on to how you can start teaching tolerance. So we will be discussing the do's and the don'ts. So first, how to get to know your students. I've seen a lot of teachers use an about me. This is usually just a paper that teachers give out to students on the first day of class, and it has questions asking about their favorite band, what they like to do after school, if they're into video games, what's their favorite music, questions like that. And you could also include a question that asks them their preferred name and pronouns. This allows the student to put it down without having to do it in front of the class, and this is usually just for the teachers so that they can get to know their students better. This also goes with the second thing I have here, which is having them fill out a survey. This is usually done online. This usually doesn't have as many questions as the about me. It's usually just a name, what they like to do. But for this, you could also have their preferred name and pronouns. And again, this is just for the teacher. And then for our third thing we have here, never ask the student in front of the class. This puts a lot of pressure on the student and it embarrasses them and they just don't know what to do. They might not be comfortable with outing themselves to the entire class like that. So if you have a student who fills out an about me or a survey and they have their preferred name and pronouns, you can call them to your desk after class and ask them what they are comfortable with, what they're not comfortable with, things like that. Okay, now how to safely integrate this into your classroom. So call your students by their preferred names and pronouns right away. Don't wait to do it. The sooner you start doing it, the sooner you will get used to it, and the sooner the rest of the class will get used to it. This will also help form the bond with that student because they feel like that they can trust you and you are being an ally. If any of your students have questions, explain that everyone is different. They usually learn this better at a younger age, but even older kids can learn this as well. They see it all of the time, and especially at Celsu where we are, there are many different students, so it's not that hard to understand. And then finally, make sure your students know that anything hateful said to or done to another student is not tolerated. If you see anything happening, excuse me, in your classroom or outside of your classroom, put a stop to it right away. This will let those students know that that is not going to be accepted. You are not going to put up with that. And it also lets that other student know that you are protecting, that you are on their side. That's all that these students really want. They just want to know that they have someone that is going to be there for them. And then finally, I am going to give you another scenario. So consider the following. Imagine that you are talking to a fellow colleague and they bring up a student that you both have, but they use the wrong pronouns for that student. What do you do? I'm going to give you another minute to just sit and think about what you would do in this situation. I do know I have a little answer right here, but we will get to that in a minute. I would like you to just sit and think about your own opinion. So your minute starts now. All right, your minute is up, and we will move on to the solution. So, there are a few ways you can go about this situation. You can continue on with what your colleague is talking about, but use the correct pronouns for the student. So, let's say your colleague says something like, I see that Jessie has been doing really well in your class. She is a great student. And you can say, yes, Jesse is a really great student. He is a great example. So that just slyly puts that in there without you having to call out your colleague and making them feel bad. They probably just made a mistake. Or for the second part, you could bring up the student's pronouns just so they know. Maybe the student hasn't told them, maybe they just forgot. So you can be like, oh, hey, did you know that Jesse goes by these pronouns? Just to get that out there, you don't have to make them feel embarrassed about it. Okay, next we will be talking about what to do in certain situations. So this is going to be filled with scenarios and extra information. So, first, what to do if you misgender a student in front of the class. The main one here is don't make a big deal out of it. If you make a big deal out of it, if you start apologizing profusely, it's just going to make you embarrassed, it's going to make that student embarrassed, and it just won't be good. So quickly correct your mistake and move on. If you just quickly say sorry, you didn't mean to do that, and then move on with the rest of your lesson, everything should be fine. And if you forget to do that, you can come back to it later, apologize, and then move on. So you can say, hey, I'm sorry I accidentally misgendered you earlier. I just wanted to apologize, and then move on with the rest of your lesson. Or finally, you can apologize to the student after class. So once the class is over, you can go up to them, have them come back to your desk, and just say, hey, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to accidentally misgender you earlier. I will try not to let it happen again. This just lets a student know that you're trying, you didn't mean to do that, and they will feel closer to you. Okay, next, how to include everyone in your classroom. Use gender neutral terms. So instead of using, let's say, boys and girls, which is here with the red X, you can say scholars, class, or friends. These are all gender neutral terms. I feel like friends can be used mainly in elementary school for the younger kids. It can also be used with older kids. I just don't know how well that would go over with them. But I really do like the word scholars. It makes everyone feel important, I think. And then finally, what to do if a student says being gay is a sin? I have heard this a lot. I'm sure a lot of you have heard this said a lot, or maybe you think this way. But the most important thing to note is to make sure that that student in your class know that you aren't asking them to forfeit their religious beliefs. You're just asking them to be kind and to be inclusive of the student or students. So we're not asking you to give up everything you believe in. We're not asking you to just throw that aside. We're just asking for some reassurance that you are going to treat them with respect and then they'll treat you with respect and then everything should be fine. And then finally, we have a final question. And this is going to be the assessment portion. I'm putting assessment in quotations because this isn't really something I can quiz you on. This is something that is going to change throughout your teaching career as the years go on. So I just want you to sit and think about this final question, how it is in the moment, how you think it might change later on. And I would like you to keep this at the back of your mind as your teaching career starts, just to see how your mind evolves with this. And it's personal, so I'm not going to have you put it in Padlet. I'm not going to have you email me. It's just for you. I want you to think about it. So, how can you, as an educator, become an ally and an advocate for students who are a part of the LGBTQ plus community? And again, this will change. It will change for each and every one of you as the years go on. You'll meet new students every single day who are different. Okay, I want to thank you guys for joining me in today's lesson. I hope each of you have learned something new, have been able to look inside of yourselves, see maybe what you can change to help students who are a part of the LGBTQ plus community. And thank you.